we are actually passively looking through either a smartwatch or a fitness sensor that people are already wearing, right? Something like 80% of people who own an iPhone actually have an Apple Watch. I mean, the adoption rate for these kinds of technologies is insane. And what we found, Saad, 20 years ago is we actually are able to detect a neurochemical being released in the brain when individuals are connecting with and getting value from an experience in a way that's significant enough to make them likely to do something later. Now, what are those neurochemicals? Two things, dopamine and oxytocin. And when the brain releases oxytocin, it's also being released peripherally. And we can actually monitor by looking at these nuanced changes in the way in which your heart beats. It's not about faster, it's not about slower. It's about small changes in the patterns of your heart rate rhythm. We can listen for those from this data that you're capturing already through your smartwatch and fitness device to find the patterns that tell us that your brain has had this high value experience or an experience that isn't delivering it value. That release of those neurochemicals is actually marking those experiences as meaningful and saving the experiences for later. And that's why we've found that these high moments of immersion actually predict future recall. It predicts future success of ad content. The AI element side is really about helping people quickly get answers to their questions using neuroscience. So we have folded in AI into our B2B platform as well as into our Tuesday app to really help people understand the data and what it's telling them quickly. With the hour-by-hour data, we were able to predict mood levels in these older adults up to 2 days in advance with 96% accuracy, and energy levels with 98% accuracy.
So let's get started. So what's neuromarketing?
Sure. So neuromarketing in general, and a lot of people, I think, misunderstand what neuromarketing is really, or have different opinions, I guess I should say, about neuromarketing, Saad. So ultimately, the goal of neuromarketing is really to understand at the unconscious level or beyond what people say they think and say they feel, what is happening really at an unconscious level. So one of the challenges with trying to ask people how they feel about an experience or asking people to provide feedback on something that they have previously encountered is that, number one, when we ask people how they feel, that's a difficult thing for people to answer. So we actually don't have real-time access to how our brain is processing things in real time any better than we know how our liver is processing things in real time. And ultimately, the goal of neuromarketing is to go below the surface so that we're not just looking at potentially biased statements of what people say they felt when it comes to a particular experience.
Well, okay. So let's talk about like how businesses can leverage neuromarketing. So what are your takes on that?
Sure. So, I mean, when it comes to businesses and neuromarketing side, I mean, there's a lot of different, first of all, I should state that like neuromarketing is a terminology that really has been applied to market research or to developing marketing campaigns and really, again, understanding beneath the surface, not just what people are saying. The thing that's interesting is I actually started in the field of neuromarketing back in 2013, 2014, and at that point in time, we had a set of methodologies where people were using neuroscience in order to understand, again, how customers felt about brands, how they felt about experiences or content that was being created. And at that point in time, neuroscience and neuromarketing tools were really only used in the space of market research or, again, marketing. One of the things that's really happened over the last decade or so is that the tools that used to exist, which were really costly, they were really slow. Those tools might take 6 weeks or more to get one single answer for $100,000. What's happened is really a shift in tools now, where we have tools that are more agile and that allow us to use neuroscience in a way that allows us to adapt more quickly, that allows us to get answers more quickly. So one thing I just want to note is there's a lot of ways that businesses can actually use neuromarketing. So oftentimes I think that terminology or that that word neuromarketing implies that neuroscience can only be used, or these tools can only be used to help people with marketing decisions. But one of the things that excites me is the evolution of this field now, because we have methodologies that allow us to measure in real time how people are connecting with experiences and valuing them. Businesses are using these kinds of tools to measure, of course, marketing material, to messages and video content, but they're also using this in real time to understand how customer experiences are either succeeding or failing. They're also using these tools in order to understand during sales processes, when am I connecting deeply with an individual versus maybe not establishing that connection. So their teams are using neuroscience tools and in order to understand if they are connecting in a way that allows them to really be successful. So I think the beauty is that the field of neuromarketing has really evolved to a point now where it's almost neuro success tools, because neuroscience tools can be used in kind of all stages of the sales cycle, but also all stages of that customer journey cycle as well.
Okay, so obviously that's a broader topic. So how about we discuss some of the use cases where you've seen, okay, these were the tools employed, or these were the techniques that were used in that business case, and those were the results that were achieved. So maybe you can talk about those cases, how the application of technology, and what were the...
Yeah, absolutely, Saad. Are you hearing my audio okay as well? Because you're cutting out a little bit for me. Can you hear me okay on your end?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. I can try to adjust my internet. I'm not sure if it's something happening on my end or yours, but so when it comes to specific use cases, Saad, there are several, use cases and also success cases. So again, what's interesting, and I think the thing that I should share is that I've worked with a lot of different neuroscience tools in my career in neuromarketing, and and also in graduate school. So I worked with a lot of neuroscience technologies in graduate school. And as I mentioned, there's really an evolution that's happened. Certainly, 5 to 10 years ago, there were companies that were utilizing neuroscience in order to create marketing campaigns, for example, or to really hone the customer experience. A good example is Hyundai actually utilized neuroscience in order to understand, or neuromarketing tools in order to understand friction points when it came to their kind of customer journey and to optimize that experience. Coca-Cola has used neuroscience in order to create incredible and compelling marketing campaigns. Huge companies have leaned into neuroscience in order to understand how they connect with customers more deeply, or in order to understand these unspoken kind of friction points, right? But one of the challenges with that side is that traditionally, as I mentioned earlier, these methodologies have been very expensive and they've taken a very long time. So, of course, Coca-Cola can afford to invest in a campaign or invest in a tool, where it takes 6 months to get an answer, because they know that they need their campaign to be the best it can be. And they really need to understand that it's going to be successful. And the time and the cost wasn't a barrier for them. What's incredible is that one of the things that we've actually worked to do at the company that I work for, Immersion, is we've worked to democratize neuromarketing. We've worked to democratize neuroscience and to make it something that's affordable, to make it something where we can actually measure people in real time where they're at, instead of needing to bring them into a lab and put an expensive, EEG cap on them that kind of brings them out of a natural, actual experience. And so because of that side, the applications of those use cases, again, have really expanded, where, for example, I'm working with someone right now who is creating an immersive art experience, and they're actually using our technology to design that experience to make sure that it is as compelling as possible. They're going to be folding in neuroscience into the experience in real time, and they'll be adapting that experience to people as they go through the experience in real time, right? In other cases, I've seen companies who've used neuroscience in order to understand how they're creating VR-based experiences. So obviously, VR is a huge growing space, both AR and VR, and understanding, are we delivering an experience that is deeply connecting to the user? And again, if you ask, so Saad, what's the last movie that you saw?
Okay. Maybe the Jack Reacher TV series. That's something interesting. Yeah.
Okay, great. So think about halfway through that piece of content, right? When you were watching it. How did you feel when you were halfway through that piece of content?
Yeah. So obviously engaged, immersed, and all of that. Yeah.
Right, but when you're saying you were engaged, you're immersed, that's great, right? That really only tells surface level, right? You're using words that kind of, you're thinking back to that experience. But I mean, depending on how long ago that experience was, depending on how long ago you watched that piece of content, it's really difficult to articulate, again, how that's impacting us from a neuroscience perspective, right? What we're working to do, and what neuroscience is really working to do in the space of connecting with customers, understanding customer journeys, understanding the reaction to content, is again to get below the surface and have this second-by-second measure so that we understand and kind of wipe away the bias in what people say that they feel, or that inability to remember what that experience was like in real time, right? So if you think about these kind of successful use cases, any scenario where you want to understand, is the brain getting deep value from an experience? When the brain is getting value from an experience, Saad, that basically means that the brain is like a resource budgeter, okay? So our brains don't want to put, it costs a lot for us to put resources toward attending to an experience, right? When I'm focusing on this conversation, my brain is literally like, putting in resources to say, okay, stay focused, stay connected, stay engaged. From the brain's perspective, if the brain isn't getting value from that experience, because again, resources are costly. If from the brain perspective, if I'm not getting value from this experience, I'm going to quit investing resources into that, and I'm going to look for other things to put my energy toward, right? What that means from an experience perspective, from an individual perspective, is that if, as a brand, as a business, as a salesperson, if you're not delivering value in a conversation, if your ad or your movie trailer isn't delivering value to your customers, and value from a brain perspective is it telling me something new? Is it connecting with me emotionally? Am I checking in to this because it is relevant and meaningful to me? If the brain doesn't get value, it looks for other things to attend to, and that means you've lost that customer. You've created a friction point. You've caused them to attend to something else. And the interesting thing is, Saad, what the brain values actually predicts what we as individuals are likely to remember and do later. So the importance, the value, those use cases, any time where you want to understand whether or not someone's likely to do something later, whether they're likely to remember something later, if you're not measuring whether or not you delivered value from a brain perspective, you aren't getting accuracy and you're not creating the best experiences that you can for your customers. So it really all comes down to the use cases about understanding, are you connecting with people in a way that is neurologically valuable? Because if you do so, you're going to be remembered more. They're more likely to go and actually buy your product. They're going to go look for Xgrid after they saw an advertisement about Xgrid, if that was something that you measured and that they connected with. Right? So it's really about establishing and understanding this neurological value. And again, any case where it is costly to create an experience or to try to sell someone or to market to someone where the cost of being wrong is high, that is a scenario where you want to make sure that you're using these tools to really understand that value in real time.
Oh, so that's awesome. So great. Tell me, how do you use this technology? So let's you talked about somebody has seen an ad or has come to a website. So how do I use technology to measure that value? Is the brain getting the value or not? So tell me more about that. I'm very, very, very interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, again, there's the neuromarketing, we'll say, has come a long way. So, when I finished grad school, so I have my PhD in cognitive neuroscience, and when I finished graduate school, I was familiar with tools like, again, these 256 electrode EEG caps. And when I was in grad school, we were doing blood draws to measure hormones before and after experiences, and looking to see, can we predict whether someone's likely to do something by looking at these changes in hormones that are measured in the blood? Other neuromarketing methodologies have involved monitoring facial expressions to understand, can we see how we're emotionally moving people based on content? And there's been a lot of really exciting technology that claims to measure emotional connection or emotional reaction. Biometrics companies, eye tracking companies that measure attention. There are tons of technologies, again, that have been around. And actually, in the time that I used to work with those methodologies, I've always been super excited about their ability to get beneath the surface, right? To go below what people are saying they like or feel. But one of the challenges that I always had, Saad, is a lot of the methodologies that originally came onto the market, they were measuring things, but not necessarily things that were meaningful. And the reason I joined Immersion is because if you're not measuring something that's meaningful, if you're not measuring something that actually tells me whether someone's likely to do something, then that's no better than a vanity metric, right? If we have a vanity metric that says, lots of people use NPS scores. Would you recommend this product to someone else? Would you recommend this experience to someone else? The challenge with NPS scores is that people will say that they'll recommend something, but they don't always do that. And it's not because they don't mean to. It's not because they were lying to you intentionally, but really, we have a bias in the way that we report things, right? We want to, if you were to ask me, Saad, okay, you've used this product and we're on a call and you're like, hey, would you recommend it? It's really hard for me as a human to stop and say, well, I don't know, especially if we have a good relationship going. So this to kind of come back and say, again, neuromarketing methodologies historically have measured something different than what people say, but they weren't measuring things that actually then related to future behavior. I remember being in a client meeting once where we had measured facial coding for an ad. And the client on the call said, well, we've got, 85% of people were smiling at this point. Does that mean that they're more likely to go and buy my water? And the answer is no. So what we're doing at Immersion is actually measuring, like I was talking about, this value. And the way we're doing that, Saad, is we are actually passively looking through either a smartwatch or a fitness sensor that people are already wearing, right? Something like 80% of people who own an iPhone actually have an Apple Watch. I mean, the adoption rate for these kinds of technologies is insane. You look at Pelotons, people who had Pelotons, they've got these Stosh fitness sensors that connect to these devices, or to the Pelotons. Devices for measuring things like our steps or our calories or the exercise we're doing are becoming more and more common. So what we're doing actually at Immersion, and we have a new consumer app that's designed to do this for individuals as well, is we're passively looking at physiologic changes as is already being recorded through these devices. Now, how do we know what's happening in the brain? How do we know that the brain is actually neurologically valuing something by monitoring something peripherally? That comes from 20 years of research. So academically, we actually, as I mentioned, we're looking at blood draws, hormone release. And what we found, Saad, 20 years ago is we actually are able to detect a neurochemical being released in the brain when individuals are connecting with and getting value from an experience in a way that's significant enough to make them likely to do something later. Now, what are those neurochemicals? Two things: dopamine and oxytocin. Dopamine is what actually allows us to stay focused in a situation. It's that little hit of happy that says, okay, this is a good thing. Let's stay concentrated on this, right? Oxytocin is where that value really comes in. So, like I mentioned earlier, from the brain's perspective, constantly being bombarded by things, right? And I'm constantly trying to decide, do I attend to this? Is this giving me value? And do I keep my attentional resources in? If I have an experience that I'm getting value from, Saad, the brain releases oxytocin. And when the brain releases oxytocin, it's also being released peripherally. And we can actually monitor by looking at these nuanced changes in the way in which your heart beats. It's not about faster, it's not about slower. It's about small changes in the patterns of your heart rate rhythm. We can listen for those from this data that you're capturing already through your smartwatch and fitness device to find the patterns that tell us that your brain has had this high value experience or an experience that isn't delivering it value. And really, again, at the end of the day, what we're looking at are these downstream effects of oxytocin and dopamine release happening in the brain. So this has been 20 years of academic science that we've taken and turned into technology that allows us to measure what the brain's valuing in real time. So you can actually see, you know, if I have a live experience, is this connecting in real time? Imagine a sales meeting, for example. You can use our technology in that way.
Okay, so you're trying to sort of like decode maybe heart rate variability and something from this watch, and you can say, okay, this might relate to oxytocin, and that person is getting value or something of that sort. Like, so that's the proxy right now that you're using, right? If I'm getting it.
Yeah. Yep, that's right, Saad. So we spent 20 years. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. So in terms of like, so there's this that how do you anonymize it, like, and how do you know that this particular person is using this particular app or using this website, or is it like in controlled settings, or how does this mechanism work?
Yeah, absolutely, Saad. So, you know, first of all, I'll say the heart rate variability doesn't matter for us. Like, we are looking actually for very distinct patterns that, again, 20 years of Asad, I used to joke, or I still joke, that my graduate school time involved blood, sweat, and tears because it did. I mean, we were looking at, you know, we were doing blood draws, and we were actually hand calculating algorithms. That's where the tears come in. Hand calculating algorithms in order to extract these meaningful signals. That 20 years of research we've turned into automated algorithms. And Saad, to answer your question about anonymity in the context, the way it works is we have companies that are working with us who have a subscription to our platform. And those companies are experience companies. You know, they're companies that are creating products. They're companies that are creating marketing materials, for example, sales teams, leadership teams. All of these companies have a subscription to our platform where they basically say, if it's content, they can upload the content to the platform. They could drop in a video or a song or an ad, and they can actually then send that to individuals to watch on their own time, to share their value measurements, to measure their, you know, their value reactions in real time. And then that data auto aggregates on our platform. In other scenarios, we have people creating live experiences. Imagine you're going to a play, or you're going to have lunch at McDonald's. You can set a measurement up where a person decides to share or agrees to share their value measurement data in real time with you. And then you can actually see either in real time how brains are responding, either for an audience as a whole or an individual, or you can look at that after the fact and have them share that data with you. Now, when it comes to the anonymity, that's obviously super duper important to us, Saad. So the way it works from an individual perspective, someone who's participating and sharing their brain data, is that I've actually got a mobile app on my phone. My smartwatch here, or the fitness device I'm using, is paired with that device, but the data is actually coming from my device to the phone and to the and then going to the cloud in real time. And it's being converted to our measure of what we call immersion. Immersion is this brain value measurement. It is converted to that measure of immersion in real time and output on our dashboard and also through the app, so individuals can see their own data. That conversion side, we're not saving any of the raw physiologic data that we're capturing. So that data is all anonymized, and also individuals, when they create an account, that account information, their data only ever for outward facing has a unique code that is masking their identity. So ultimately, it's entirely anonymized. Now, individuals can choose to share their data with people if they would like to, and have their information paired with their data. So, for example, we have some leadership people working in leadership who are using this with their teams in order to measure different interventions, you know, different programs that they're bringing through. Other people are using us in learning and development scenarios. So some cases, it's always anonymized, the data is, but in some cases we have people where teams are choosing to share, to unmask their data in order to kind of optimize team performance in essence.
Oh, okay. So to me, so you mentioned that it was very expensive, but this still doesn't look cheap to me. It doesn't sound cheap to me, at least.
It doesn't sound cheap,
So,
right?
so, so for example, as a company, we might be doing optimizations like, okay, this landing page converts better and versus this page and all of that. And there are tools which tell us, okay, this is how the user clicked, this is how they flowed, and we have those data available.
Right.
I would say that will be an amazing data. Somebody is actually going through the page and we're collecting all of those hormone levels and it's going back. But it doesn't sound cheap. Or is it cheap?
It's actually super affordable, Saad. So one of the things, again, from our perspective has been, we really want to, and this like term, when I first joined the company, I was the second hire for the company. So, this is like part of my fabric, really. When I joined the company, one of the things that we talked about, Saad, was we really do want to democratize neuroscience. So we want to make it available to everyone. And as we sat down and kind of thought about the state of neuromarketing and the state of neuroscience as it's being used by businesses and by brands, we recognize that, again, for in order to get one answer from neuroscience, the way it was looking at that point was $150,000 and 6 weeks or more to get one answer. What we've actually done, because and we've actually got kind of a new product that I'll give you a little info about, but on the SaaS side of our business, on the immersion B2B side, our platform actually has really simple, straightforward pricing. So we have a low monthly subscription cost, and then you pay by usage. So it's fully designed based on how much you're actually measuring, so that if you've got a project here and you want to measure 30 people and get their reaction to this website content, it just scales as you use it. We have other models where people are using our platform in an unlimited manner, where they might be paying $3,000 a month in order to get 50 answers about content. So if you think about $150,000 for one answer, our subscription levels, depending on our product, start at $8.99 a month and at $1.99 a month. So, and actually that's the highest level. I'm sorry, we have free models as well where you can just pay based on usage. So again, by bringing this into a SaaS model, by having these automated algorithms, and also by allowing you to measure people when they're sitting on their couch at home, or when they're out navigating in the world, it also reduces the cost, because you don't need to pay for the facility. You don't need to pay to have them come into a place or have a dedicated time to be sitting and meeting with you to, get all the sensors connected and all that good stuff. So it's super duper affordable, Saad, even on the B2B side with the product we have now. The other thing I'm super excited about is we recently released a consumer app called Tuesday. And our Tuesday app is actually designed for individuals to measure their own brain-based value throughout the day, so they can understand the things that are bringing them the most value, that are really filling their neurologic cup, as we'd say, versus draining that neurologic cup. And with the Tuesday app, it also allows the opportunity for content and experience creators to get fast answers for free. So through the Tuesday app, you can actually go in and you can drop a video link, or you can set up a measurement. You can invite people to join, and you can get a score that tells you the neurologic value of the website experience that they just had. And that costs nothing. If you want to get a deeper report, you can actually go in and buy based on the number of people that you want to see data for. So again, every day we're really working, Saad, to make sure that you can test your website and you don't have to, wait 6 months to get that done. Because like you said, you already have information about engagement, but this is intended to tell you a deeper level. And also, people spend lots of money on creating websites, on creating experiences. So this can be a tool that can be used in creation of those things that allows you to save money because it is designed to predict future behavior. It will tell you the likely success of content before you've even released it, so that you don't only have to rely on metrics that may not tell you the depth of which people are connecting to an experience, right?
Okay, awesome. And is it like limited to like what kind of content is it like you can have games, you can have videos, you can have web pages, or is it limited, or is it it can be anything?
It can really be almost anything, Saad. I will say, I'll caveat with a couple of things. Of course, anything, anything has its limitations. For us, we have seen immersion and our value measurement be used to understand the impact of things all the way from static content through to, again, in real time live experiences. I think the caveat I would say is when it comes to static content, there is a minimum exposure time that we typically recommend. And so, with static content, if it's just a print ad, for example, what we'll typically recommend is make a short video of that, or measure people in real time engaging with that print ad in the context of something else. Right? Static messaging. So if you were just wanting to test like a written, 3 different written messages in isolation, that's really not something that's great for us because, again, the exposure time is too short. And typically the context for those things really matters. So you're really getting an isolated understanding of that experience. So for us, the more natural the experience, the better, and that's the beauty of us being able to fit in to where and meet people really where they are. So I'd say again, the static, maybe print ads or static messages, you'd want to test those in the context of like a full website or where people would maybe encounter those, and then just do different iterations. The other space side is when it comes to high exertion activities. So when it comes to our brain assigning value to an experience, our brain assigning value to that experience is basically our brain, again, assessing whether or not to put the energy and the resources into that in real time. If I am out and I'm running or exerting physical energy, the body takes over the patterns of the way in which my heart beat because it's keeping me alive and able to continue to function. So then at that point in these high energy expenditure scenarios where you're physically active, we're no longer then measuring a brain state, it's measuring a body state. So that would be the other space where it's less applicable, I would say.
Okay. That's very interesting. And that's an interesting comment because yeah, that's why brain doesn't like us to go out and run, right?
Well, yeah. I wouldn't say the brain doesn't like us to go run. I think it's probably good for us in some ways. But
Yeah.
in those moments, of course, it becomes less of, because really, Saad, what's happening is when the brain is releasing dopamine and oxytocin, when it's getting that value from the experience, a couple things are happening. It is that release of those neurochemicals is actually marking those experiences as meaningful and saving the experiences for later. And that's why we've found that these high moments of immersion actually predict future recall. It predicts future success of ad content. It predicts whether or not people share information about an experience they had. And we've actually proven this in market. But when that thing happens in the brain, when the release happens, it's happening in the body as well. And basically oxytocin, you have the largest concentration of the oxytocin receptors in your vagus nerve, which innervates the heart. So when we have these like moments of high value from a brain perspective, again, this kind of downstream effect is controlled by the brain. But again, in those high physical fitness energy scenarios, the heart basically just takes over and the brain says, I just need to make sure that I'm keeping blood flowing and keeping this person alive, in essence, which is much like when I try to run. That's what my brain is saying to me, just stay alive, we'll make it.
Stay alive. Okay. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I believe this is all AI ML based. I think that that's where you're building all of your models and maybe maybe you can comment better. Maybe this the AI ML that has really progressed this neuromarketing field a lot.
That's a great question, Saad. Actually, when we started our company, AI obviously was not as well known as it is now. So our algorithms actually, again, are all proprietary algorithms that are based on manual research that we did looking at, we started again with our ground truth was blood draws and neurochemical release and hormone release that we could capture downstream. And then we basically looked to see, okay, can we be and what we cared about at that time was, can we predict something in the future? Can we predict a future decision? At the academic level, that decision was, are you going to donate some of your hard-earned money after being stuck twice with a needle to get your blood? Do you want to donate some of this money to a company that created a video that we exposed you to, right? Now, the algorithms that we've built, of course, over time, we have nuanced those, and where AI and machine learning really become important for us and where we see it as important moving forward, the AI element side is really about helping people quickly get answers to their questions using neuroscience. So we have folded in AI into our B2B platform as well as into our Tuesday app to really help people understand the data and what it's telling them quickly. So AI for us serves that purpose of helping us to articulate the impact of and the success of content so that it doesn't require a team waiting 6 weeks to get a PowerPoint presentation and an in-person presentation from us. We want to be able to give people answers within an hour, 24 hours, whatever they need. Right? So that's where AI becomes important for us, is articulating the impact of the results in essence. Now, machine learning, though, of course, and I know these two things play hand in hand, but I'm talking more of these like AI kind of language models, right? Machine learning actually has become a tool that we have been implementing more and more. And I'll give you a good example of this, Saad. A couple of years ago, actually, we conducted a study where we were looking to see individuals who are living in retirement home facilities, can we measure their physiology passively? Can we measure their value, their connection, that neurologic value throughout the day? And with those neurologic value measurements, are we able to predict two things, mood and energy levels? Okay. Now, this was an academic study, but it was using our immersion platform that is available to individuals, right? What we found from that study is when we use the immersion data alone, and we used it just looking at an aggregate for the day, we were able to predict mood with, I think, about 68% accuracy, and we were able to predict energy levels with about like 73% accuracy or something like that, right? When we actually looked at hour by hour value data, brain value data, right? That increased, that ability to predict increased. When we layered in machine learning with the hour by hour data, we were able to predict mood levels in these older adults up to 2 days in advance with 96% accuracy, and energy levels with 98% accuracy. So machine learning, where it has relevance, Saad, is really in honing our ability to predict things that are really meaningful in order to help people better their lives. And what we really want to do with our Tuesday app, again, that is built for consumers to be able to really know what they're neurologically connecting with and what is filling their brain cup, we'll call it. The value of machine learning and AI there is really over time being able to personalize those recommendations more so people know what things are really working for them, and also in being able to help people know, you know what, based on my immersion scores today, it's looking like my mood and my energy are going to be pretty low in a couple days. So I actually need to pause and be intentional about what I'm doing in order to make sure that I am connecting to the individuals and the experiences that I'm having throughout the day in the most meaningful and deep way possible, so that I can have better mood and better energy in 2 days as opposed to what's currently projected. So I think it will really help us hone and personalize those algorithms over time.
Okay, so that's really awesome because I've seen some apps, like I think those apps were based out of CBT,
Mm-hmm.
so cognitive, so they sort of like check in, so how does your mood look like, and you sort of select something, write something, and then
Yeah.
there's some sort of prediction out there. And now you guys have sort of like taken that part away and it's all automatic and you just get the score, right? That's the case.
Absolutely, Saad. And here's the other thing again that I'll say. If you ask me what my mood is right now or how I'm feeling right now, I will give you an answer. Absolutely, right? But I don't have access to how my brain is really feeling and connecting with an experience in real time. I'll tell a really quick story if you don't mind, Saad, just to kind of articulate this, right? So one of my favorite emotion researchers is Lisa Feldman Barrett. And Lisa Feldman Barrett did a podcast recently, and she was telling the story. And Lisa has done an incredible, I should say, Dr. Feldman Barrett has done an incredible job of advancing the way in which we understand human emotions and how we as humans don't really understand our emotions as well as we think we do. And so the example that she gave, Saad, is when she was in grad school, this, a grad school colleague had asked her out several times and she declined, but finally one day agreed to go have coffee with this colleague. And she's having coffee with this colleague, and midway through the coffee, she starts to kind of feel her face is feeling a little flushed and her stomach's just feeling some butterflies. And, she kind of pauses and thinks, well, I didn't think that I was attracted to this colleague, but maybe I am. Maybe I was, letting the fact that we're classmates get in the way. And so maybe I was misthinking this. And so she agreed to a second date, and she went home and proceeded to further develop symptoms of the flu. So she got very sick, had the stomach flu, but Saad, her body and her brain misinterpreted those physiologic signals, the signal of her face flushing, of her stomach, getting butterflies. Her brain misinterpreted those signals as being attraction instead of being sick. All the brain is trying to do in real time is interpret input and make the best guess of how to act based on that input. So when you ask me to tell you about my mood or how I'm feeling in real time, again, it really comes back to I have no better knowledge what my brain is processing in real time as I do my liver processing the breakfast that I had, right? So what we're doing is passively measuring, again, the effects and the evidence of the brain connecting in a way that's meaningful and deriving value from an experience. So we want to make it passive for people. So like you said, Saad, they don't have to stop and record their mood. I have an app on my phone that asks me all the time to log my emotions, check my feelings. I don't do it. I'm busy. I have a life to live. I lead a marketing team and sales, and I'm at a startup. So what we really want to do is meet people where they are, and that's what the Tuesday app is designed to do, is to meet people where they are in their day, be a passive way for them to know when they're really connecting and when they're getting drained from an experience, so they have some guidelines and guidance in order to be able to optimize and go into situations better prepared, right?
So, in terms of, your dependence is still on, I guess, some of the devices that people are currently using. So, is
Yeah.
there something you want to build, which is like a super customized thing of your own, which works with your app, or maybe a specialized tracker, or do you feel like the kind of technology that is out there is good enough?
That's a great question, Saad. From our perspective, we want to become device agnostic. So we would love to be able to pair with every device that exists. We have no need to develop our own technology around this, our own wearable technology, because there are incredible advancements being made. We started our, when we were an academic institution, or when we were only in academia, and we were trying to understand, is there something, because the way that we ended up actually coming up with these automated algorithms is when we found that we could detect from neurochemicals and hormones being released in the blood whether someone was likely to do something later. We actually got a call from the US government who challenged us to be able to do that at scale, to do that without being invasive, without having to stick people with needles. They wanted to understand if we were trying to end a war, and we wanted to see if a message dropped on a flyer would have an impact on people, how could we do this in a way out in the field? And so we were challenged with finding something that allowed us to be able to capture this meaningful signal that predicted future behavior without blood draws. And we went in device and technology agnostic then as well, Saad. We tested 256 electrode EEG caps, right? We've always cared about what gives us the most accuracy. We don't care about the methodology. And then when we discovered the methodology that allows us to predict, now we want to be able to integrate with as many devices as possible, because we want to democratize this and make it accessible to people. If we go out and we create our own sensor and we say you have to have this to use it with our app, that doesn't help anyone, right? So actually, we're currently working on our V2 of our Tuesday app right now. V1 is only available on iPhone, and it pairs with an Apple Watch, with a Whoop device, with several fitness sensors. With our V2, that will also be available in the Android, on Android in the Google Play Store. We will be pairing with Fitbit devices, with Garmin devices, with Oura rings, and there are new devices coming out all the time. So our goal is really to plug in with all of those, so that we are not exclusionary, and so that everyone can benefit from having neuroscience technology that helps them live better lives and make better experiences.
Okay, so obviously, from your perspective or in company perspective, there's this B2B side and there's this very consumer side. Which side do you want to go to in future? Is it like both, or is it like one stepping towards the other one?
Yeah, good question, Saad. I mean, from our perspective, they are two sides of an important coin. We want to help individuals create better content and experiences that connect with end individuals, so that end individuals can have better experiences and live better lives, right? As an individual consumer, Saad, I know that people are going to market to me. I know people are going to outreach me and send, cold messages from LinkedIn. I know that when I go to travel to Los Angeles next week, that Delta has thought about designing my experience as I, journey through the travel journey, in essence, right? If I hit a friction point along the way, it can ruin my entire travel experience, right? If I choose to spend money on a movie and going to a theater, those are costly resources for me, my time and my money. As an individual, I want to have better experiences. And of course, the people creating those experiences, ultimately, they want to sell things. They want to, they want user adoption. They want to make sure that people are telling their friends about this immersive Van Gogh art experience that they went to, right? So for us, again, I think these are two sides of a coin. We want to enable the creation of better experiences in the world. And for us, that requires that people who are creating those experiences, whether it's content or a live experience or a product, we want to help them know better that they're serving and delivering the impact they want to, that they're delivering the value that they hope to. And we want to help individuals know the things that works for them, know what they are connecting with, what their brain is valuing, so they can have better lives. And I always see needing to do both, really, and them having, again, kind of dual purposes and parallel purposes. Because if content and experience and product creators are doing a better job because they know they're delivering to their customer, and individuals know what is bringing them the most brain joy or happiness from a brain perspective, then we'll live in a happier world. And that's what we really care about ultimately.
Okay. So this is one question which I just want to understand better. So there's somebody who's on TikTok, and there's that particular person is on the other hand, is doing homework. Okay.
Yeah,
So now the brain is like, I don't know what the brain will say while on TikTok and while on
I
doing
know
the homework.
exactly what it'll say.
So go
I know
ahead, go ahead.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing that again, because we think we know like what's best for us, right? We think we know in real time like how
Mhm.
when we are dividing resources like that, Saad, when we are attempting to attend to more than one thing, that means that our brain is not getting value from either of those things. Right? You've
Mhm.
probably heard
Mhm.
that people, no matter how much they think that they are good at multitasking, there's plenty of research to show that we are not good at multitasking. When we
Mhm.
attempt to do multiple things at once, our brain is dividing resources, and that means it's not possible for it to get the same value. I've had several scenarios, and this is why I love using Tuesday myself, because if I measure myself on a day when I'm in a meeting, we do daily huddles because we're a remote company. If I'm in a huddle and I am trying to listen to what's happening, what my colleagues are saying that they're working on for the day, and I'm sending emails, and I'm looking at Slack messages come in, my immersion is always very low. It is always very low, and we see that consistently because again, what we're looking at is the brain getting value from something, and you have to be fully attending to something to really get full value from that experience. So for the student who is trying to do homework and also on TikTok, they're going to have low immersion levels. They're not going to be likely to remember the things they saw on TikTok, and they're not getting the same reward they would get if they would just carve out dedicated time for that. And they're also not going to retain the information they're attempting to learn because they're not all in. Their brain doesn't have a chance to value and encode that experience.
Okay, that's awesome. So I can see a lot of books in the background. So somebody who wants to sort of like get deeper into this neuromarketing, and which books do you recommend? Which resources they should actually refer to?
That is a really great question, actually, Saad. And because I work for a startup, I haven't gotten to do as much reading recently as I would like to. But we actually did, a shameless plug for a company. One of our founders, Dr. Paul Zak, actually released a book called Immersion that talks about
Mhm.
creating immersive and impactful experiences. And,
Mhm.
I talk about Paul like he's a big brother to me because Paul was my graduate school advisor, and
Mhm.
he's been an incredible mentor in life and an incredible person who actually uh, really paved the way for our better understanding of the role that oxytocin plays in our lives in helping us as individuals to connect more deeply, trust individuals. Other great books, Lisa Feldman Barrett's book, How Emotions Are Made, is an incredible book. So again, I've almost taken it on as a life's mission to help people recognize how bad we are at knowing our own emotions. And, what we've talked about for Tuesday is helping people to really gain control over and achieve emotional fitness so they can really manage their emotions and their joy and the happiness that they are seeking by knowing how experiences and interactions throughout the day are really again connecting with them neurologically. So again, How Emotions Are Made from Lisa Feldman Barrett is super incredible. And then I'm sure there's a million more that I could come up with, but a lot of these are really startup based books right now because I spent my time reading all the
Okay.
neuroscience back in grad school.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's awesome. So how about Huberman? Huberman is somebody who's a neuro.
Oh yeah.
Have you listened?
Absolutely, yeah. Andrew Huberman is doing incredible things. Actually,
Mhm.
I was chatting with someone recently about, I think he's doing so much for, helping people understand themselves better. So again, so many people think that we really know what's good for us or what we should do. We talk a lot internally about people measuring their steps, measuring their sleep, counting their calories, trying yoga, trying meditation, but still feeling like they're missing something. And I think part of that is really, again, taking more time to understand our bodies, our brains, and how our physiology unconsciously affects us in so many ways, right? So I think that Andrew Huberman has really knocked it out of the park in connecting with his audience in making things, conveying things in a way that's easy to consume, doing it in a way that is really, what's the word I'm looking for? He's authentic, and that's, I think, one of the beauties about Andrew Huberman, and him, really helping to educate things. And in fact, it's funny, we sort of talked to ourselves about, he has such a great podcast and brings incredible people on there. If people are curious about staying in touch with us, we have social media accounts, Best Tuesday Ever. And, we'd love to get to a point where, just like Andrew Huberman, we can help really educate people more about their brain and their bodies, and hopefully bring him on to be part of our podcast at a point, because again, I think he's really changing the way people understand themselves and understand their brains and bodies.
Okay, that's awesome, because obviously, I guess his ability to give those personal hacks, doing those deep dives, and all of those are very, very useful, and pretty much help any individual to. Yeah. So where can people find you? Where can people know more about you?
Yeah, so we have, if people are interested in using our SaaS-based product, and understanding, like, having deep analytics, being able to get quick answers, they can reach us on www.getimmersion.com, so they can find more information there. Also, I am always happy to connect with individuals on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Laura Beavin Yates, or email me at laura@getimmersion.com. And then our new consumer app is Tuesday, so you can find us on TikTok and Instagram, Best Tuesday Ever, Your Best Tuesday Ever, apologies. And then also, we are currently available in the App Store for iOS, and soon will be available on Android as well.
Okay, so to be honest, I truly enjoyed the session. So
I did too.
the next thing that I'm gonna, so the next thing I'm gonna do is gonna install your app.
Excellent.
And I will give you some feedback.
Excellent. Well, and I'll tell you, we're on V1 of the app, and we are actively actually working on V2. So also, for you and anyone else who wants to reach out with some feedback on what they'd love to see in the app, from a getting quick, again, answers about what we've been talking about is like emotional NPS. So many people use NPS, but again, it doesn't really predict that future behavior. So the Tuesday, for content creators, is that quick answer. But again, we're looking for feedback right now, so we welcome it, via either email or to me on LinkedIn.
Okay, that's awesome. So thanks a lot for joining us. I think that's pretty much the time. So anything you want to add? Missed anything? Let me know.
Yeah, I don't think so, Sad. It was so much fun to talk to you, and I'm super excited about what you guys are doing at Xgrid, and was chatting with the team about bringing you guys in as well. So yeah, I look forward to hopefully being able to see you later, and let us know how we can help.
100%. We'll keep on talking. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Sad. I appreciate your time.
Have an amazing day.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.